Welcome back to In the Loop. I'm your host, Taylor Harmon. March is Women's History Month, so on this episode, we are highlighting women and specifically women in the power industry. Sitting down with me today are a few incredible women. First, I have my co-host, Tiffany Trueblood.
Hello.
And also joining us today is President and CEO of Oglethorpe Power Corporation, Annalisa Bloodworth, and President and CEO of Georgia Transmission Corporation, Barbara Hampton. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, as we said, we are going to be highlighting you guys. You guys are some of our most powerful women we have going around here. No pressure. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
So I grew up in a small town in rural Colorado outside of Denver. My standard fun fact is I was a rodeo trick rider growing up. Don't ask me to pull out those tricks anymore. But I went to college in Texas from Colorado, and then that's really where I got my start in the energy industry. I know we'll probably talk about that in a bit. I worked in Houston, Texas as an economist in the energy markets, and then the great state of Georgia beckoned me for what would be home forever for law school here in Atlanta, Georgia at Emory University. I was an only child, but I'm now the mother of two bright young girls who are interested in the sciences and in math, which I love to see, and have been in Georgia since law school back in 2000.
All right, Barbara, what about you?
I grew up in Monroe and West Monroe, Louisiana. So if you're familiar with Duck Dynasty, you know, those are my people. None of my family have the beard, but we do all those other kind of things that Duck Dynasty did. I grew up skiing on a watermelon rind at 4th of July. You strategically ate your watermelon to make it to where you could slip your foot in there and get a good grip, because you would start out on two skis, you'd drop one ski, and the boat would go by, and you'd pick up your watermelon rind and try to ski on that thing. So we wasted a whole lot of watermelons, but we had a really good time. But Ouachita River was right there in the middle of Monroe and West Monroe. So I went to school there, met my husband in high school. So he went to Houston, Texas. Then we got married. I moved down to Houston. He got transferred to Atlanta. That's how we ended up in Atlanta. And we've been here longer than we haven't. So Atlanta is home for me. I have two daughters. My oldest is 34. She's a school teacher, bless her heart. And she has two young daughters as well. I have a granddaughter named Riley and a granddaughter named Oakley. They're about 6 years apart. One's 7, one's just turned 1. And then my youngest daughter, Greer, is a physical therapist. She lives in Chattanooga but works in Dalton. I'm very proud of those two young ladies and who all they have become. And my husband and I have been married 40 years. I will say some of them just don't count, but we've made it through. So we celebrated 40 years, so real happy about that too.
You going to teach us granddaughters how to do the watermelon skiing?
We do try to teach them to take some risk, and that's, our oldest granddaughter, really struggled with that early on, but she's brave and she's jumping off the boat now, so it's a good thing.
Thank you, ladies, again for sitting down with us. It kind of go into more specific detail on how you got your start in the power industry, please.
Absolutely. It is a great industry to be in, certainly today, maybe even more than ever. When I came out of college, I had studied economics, and I was recruited to a couple of different firms. One of them specialized in the energy industry with a strong focus in the natural gas markets. So gas transportation, all the pipelines all around the country, and gas supply. I ended up in Houston in an interesting time, not long after I'd gotten to Houston and started working as an economist in the energy industry. All the infamous events happened around Enron, and we watched that firm collapse and really change at least what the energy market was known as then dramatically. So, truth be told, as I headed off to law school and was recruited by lots of different law firms, my background before serving as the CEO of Oglethorpe was on the legal side. When they recruited me for their energy practices, I said, and I quote, "Oh, anything but energy. That's the most corrupt industry out there." But in life, sometimes you point yourself exactly where you're going to go, and sometimes life surprises you despite that, or maybe because of that. And so around 2010, I was approached by some folks with the opportunity to come work at Oglethorpe, to come serve the cooperatives. And while I was skeptical about returning to my roots in the energy industry, it was really exciting to see that Oglethorpe was embarking on the effort to build the first new nuclear plants that this country had seen constructed in more than 30 years. And honestly, that was too exciting of an opportunity to pass by. So I came full circle back to energy and learned very quickly, and can still say today that there is no corruption in cooperative land. One of the best things about being in a cooperative, being served by a cooperative, is our commitment to those we serve and to our values, which aren't just the 7 cooperative principles, but our ethics and our the values we live by.
I told you that my husband was transferred from Houston, Texas, out to Atlanta. That's how I got here. So mine is not nearly as exciting as that. In 1986, so way on back in time, 1986, I got into the power industry by answering an ad in the newspaper. Now, that tells you how far back it was.
Wow.
I answered an ad in the newspaper to go to work for Oglethorpe Power Corporation. So they were looking for an internal auditor, and my background is accounting and finance, and so I answered the ad, and then I forgot about it. And I interviewed. I think they called a month later, and I interviewed for the job. And then I forgot about it again because I went to work for St. Joseph's Hospital. And I ended up getting a phone call at night from the HR person at Oglethorpe Power, and they asked if I was, they wanted to offer me the job. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I've already taken another job. Thank you so much." And I hung up, and she hung up. She said, "Thanks very much." And the next night she called back and she said, "Look, the manager wants to talk to you about Oglethorpe Power. Would you meet him over the weekend and just let him tell you some of the benefits?" And things. I'm like, okay. So I ended up meeting him for lunch, and he told me about all the benefits that Oglethorpe Power had, and I can tell you it was a whole lot better than the benefits at the hospital because, medical, dental, vacation, all of those things. And so I said, this does sound interesting. And I probably got the best lesson I've ever gotten about how to be a good boss, because I went into my boss at the time and told her that I had met this gentleman from Oglethorpe Power. It's a job I interviewed before. And they had really interesting things, really interesting benefits. And you know what she said? She said, "All right, how about you go check it out? You just go and work for them a week, and if you like it, just call me. And if you don't, your job's here." And that was the most generous. I thought, well, that's the way you need to be. Kind of like that. If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was, kind of thing. And so I went and I went to work for Oglethorpe Power, and I never looked back. So I started off in internal audit and had the opportunity to work on a lot of different things. But I'm really thankful for that manager going, "I just want to tell you a little bit more about it." So it was really interesting.
That's great.
Those are both really fascinating stories. It was one of those, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be type things, isn't it? What personal strengths do you believe have contributed to your success?
I will say, ever since I I was born and raised this way. My mom and dad taught me, you treat others like you want to be treated. And I think that is probably one of my biggest strengths. Another strength, I tend to be able to take complex things, complex transactions, and boil it down into explainable things for others. And I've always loved show and tell. So I think talking about it and putting that into words is kind of what I enjoy doing, and kind of being the liaison between the very technical electrical engineering side of transmission and taking it to the investor financial side of transmission, and kind of being the liaison. So it's probably one of my biggest strengths.
Those are great strengths. And we see them in action all the time from Barbara. It's a pleasure to get to work with her and see those strengths in action, truly. I think I've had different strengths at different points in my career, but something that's always consistent is that I've never thought there was a replacement for good old-fashioned hard work. You got to take the time to learn your craft, whatever that craft is, and hone your skills. What that looks like at the beginning of someone's career is different than what it looks like in the middle of your career. But to be clear, in my current job, I'm still working really hard at honing my craft and my skills so that I can be the best for those whom I serve. So certainly the hard work is something that's served me well. I've also always believed that it doesn't matter what title someone has or what job they fill. There's plenty that they have to teach you, and I have looked for the opportunities to learn those things from people in all walks of my life. Everything from the incredible housekeeper that helps me keep my home together to the person who's running the biggest companies in Atlanta that I might interface with today or interfaced with years ago. So looking for what you have to learn from the people you come across. Sometimes it's people who are being welcoming and friendly to you, and sometimes it's people that are really a thorn in your side. The challenging coworker sometimes has the most to teach you, and just looking for that opportunity to learn from them.
Yeah, there's always, there have been people throughout my career at Oglethorpe and GTC that have made me better, mainly because I was getting prepared for what they might ask me, but they made me better by, so that sometimes the most difficult people will bring you the furthest. And it took me a long time to remember that. And then there were some people that I always took it personally, that they were, but then I started observing that, oh no, that's just how they treat everybody. So, and that actually sort of helped me go, okay, at least they're not ignoring me, So
Don't take it personal.
Yeah, right.
What motivates you guys to get up every day and be such leaders in this industry?
Well, I thought about that. What does motivate me? Number one, I tell people this all the time. You've got to find a job that lines up with your moral compass. And sort of for me, I love the fact that the co-ops I work for, they pray before they get started with business. I think that's great. That lines up with what I hold high in regard for me, and just the 7 cooperative principles lines up nicely with my core values myself. And so you try to put yourself in places that you will naturally excel. So if I was in a corporate world that was very different than a cooperative world, I probably would not be very successful. But the fact that I was in an organization that shared experiences and wanted to help me come along, and I want to help them come along, that's an environment that I'll do really well in. A very competitive, cutthroat, winner take all, that's probably going to be an environment that is not conducive for me to thrive in. So you have to find. It's just divine intervention. That's all I can say. Is that I answered that ad in the paper in 1986. This is an environment, and that manager kind of saying, "Let me talk to you about it." I really do think it was divine intervention that this is a place that I can really add value and make a difference. And I am truly the little old lady at the end of the line, because I used to live on the end of the line, and I was working for me to keep my lights on, because I was on a co-op line. So I still am. It's a culture and a class of people that are second to none. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoy it.
So I think a lot on the great days and the days that it's hard to get up. We all have both of those kinds of days when we work somewhere, particularly for a long time. But good days and bad days alike, I think about the sort of sacred, I think it is, responsibility we have to our communities. And we know as cooperative members and as leaders in this industry that nothing goes right if the power is not on. Being a part and leading people to make that power reliable, but first and foremost safe, and to fight to make it affordable is truly motivational to me. I want Georgia to continue to be the kind of place that it's been for me to grow up, for my children to grow up, to be the kind of place where people can have great, safe communities with good jobs. And power is the foundation of all of that. And it's a privilege to get to do what we do every day. It's a privilege for me to watch the nearly 200 employees we have that show up to our generation facilities every day and literally make the power, right? Produce the electrons that Barbara and her team do a fantastic job of distributing across this whole state. But it doesn't just happen automatically, and having the privilege to lead people in the direction of focusing on our members, it's a great thing to wake up to every day, even on the hard days, right? We talk a lot about how we can do really hard things with excellence and with joy, and we do that by continually pursuing excellence, right? It doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, but at the end of the day, working for a cooperative, leading a cooperative, being served by a cooperative is about believing in your communities and what your communities can do and what we can do together. That's awesome. It's an awesome responsibility, but it's also an awesome privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
Co-ops are just pretty awesome in general. And co-op people are awesome. Like you said, there's something different about co-op people. It's just when you walk in a room of co-op people, you know it, right?
That's right.
That's right.
I say that it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. Lots of people can make power. Lots of people can make transmission and buy and sell it. Not everybody can. It's it's not that easy to do. But lots of people can do it. No one can do it the way cooperatives do it.
So both of your organizations play a vital role in getting power to our members' homes. And a lot of maybe like behind the scenes, they see our guys, they see our trucks, they see the EMC logo. But what exactly is your roles with Oglethorpe and GTC? What you guys do behind the scenes? How does that impact our members?
Well, Annalisa, why don't you start with generation?
Sure, that is a great question. You can ask a room full of high school graduates where the power comes from, and most of them will point to the little switch on the wall and say, there. But the truth is much more complicated and quite beautiful, actually, behind the scenes. The power that we use every day if we're served by a cooperative starts with Oglethorpe. Or with some third parties. But for Oglethorpe, it starts at one of our generation facilities, all of which are located here in the state of Georgia. And those generation facilities are nuclear plants, they're coal facilities, they're natural gas-fired facilities. Through Green Power EMC, they are also solar solar panels, excuse me. And once we generate the power right at the edge of our generation facilities, we pass that power to Barbara.
So when when they generate it for Georgia Transmission, we pick it up at the generation facility and we ship it across those large transmission lines you see all over the state. So Georgia Transmission owns about 5,400 miles of line in Georgia at the higher voltage, so the taller poles. And we bring it to a substation in your local area. And from there, Coweta-Fayette takes it and delivers it to your home or business. So all of us together, I kind of put it as, I use the analogy of an airport. Oglethorpe Power is the plane that is landing. We are the runways. And another organization that also helps in delivering power to Coweta-Fayette is Georgia System Operations, and so they're like the air traffic controller. So that's a good analogy of what we do to be able to deliver power to Coweta-Fayette.
One thing we all have in common is that we are all nonprofit cooperatives, and we all share a value system and live in accordance with the 7 cooperative principles. Those values really mean something to all of us, and we are really fortunate to be owned by Coweta-Fayette and have the privilege as generators and transmitters and as operators in the case of GSOC to serve you all.
So true. Based on that too, what has been one of the most defining career moments for you?
Well, I think a lot about the years 2017 and 2018 in my professional career. And in 2017, Westinghouse was a company that was supposed to build the 2 new nuclear units in Georgia for a fixed price. And in 2017, we realized that those projects and the cost burdens associated with figuring out how to do that again after so many decades when we hadn't been building nuclear in this country were going to push Westinghouse into bankruptcy. And what that meant is we had a decision to make as a cooperative family here in Georgia, but also as a state about whether we would finish those projects. I think a lot about how we solved that problem as a cooperative family. It was every cooperative member of Georgia that had to dig into that problem. It was everyone at Oglethorpe, across the family of companies, the transmission company, our statewide Georgia EMC, certainly GSOC. We were all working on the problem of what to do about it. And all these years later, looking back, it's easy to celebrate what ultimately happened, which was a decision to be bold and brave and to recognize the burdens that would be placed on everyone in the state to go forth and finish that project. But what an awesome thing for nuclear security in this country. We have managed to finish and create a gift that will pay dividends for generations to come in this state as far as economic development. And so it all came out great. But in the moment when you're making the decisions about a project like that and whether to go forward, none of the great outcome that is today was known or certain. And we all have to lead in our homes and in our jobs and our classrooms every day. And wherever we lead, it's not always certain how it comes out. When we discipline a child, we don't know exactly whether we made the right leadership decision in our home that day. And, you know, I do think that prayer should be a part of making leadership decisions. It is for me personally, and a lot of hard work should be part of making those leadership decisions. You got to know your facts, and then you got to trust your gut. You got to trust your gut.
I do think there is a gut. Intuition is real, and you do have to trust it. For me, probably the defining moment in my career, I didn't know it at the time either, was I was the financing officer for Oglethorpe Power Corporation when we split the company up into 3 different companies: Oglethorpe Power, Georgia Transmission, and Georgia System Operations. So a whole lot to do. First of all, member unrest was driving it. We had some members that wanted out of their wholesale power contract, others that wanted things to be, didn't want cost spread to them. So a lot of different issues that had to be thought through and navigated through. And it's just a very tense time, a very demanding time. There was a whole lot of long nights and weekends and trying to figure out how we were going to create a wholesale power contract that would still allow Oglethorpe to build generation in the future, but also give members the freedom they wanted to go to the marketplace. And I think we did an outstanding job of that. It stood this test of time. Both Oglethorpe and Georgia Transmission, after the restructuring, have grown twice, two, 3 times in terms of asset size. So we had to put in we took out our mortgage and put in an indenture, and we had to figure out the financing aspects of that. That has held for both of those organizations. Went and got ratings for a brand new organization, Georgia Transmission. So I just look back on that. We figured out Georgia Transmission didn't have enough money to pay when we were putting all this together, didn't have enough money to pay the principal payments that it was absorbing from Oglethorpe Power, and we figured out how to go back and make that work, and that we ended up putting in margin for interest of 1.2. So there was just a whole lot of things in that transaction that, looking back on it, that really was probably a defining moment.
So we've talked a lot about kind of your story of your career and where you are today. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the future and what excites you for your upcoming careers and the future of power generation.
For me, for Georgia Transmission, we are in a lot of people are facing the same thing we are. We have a lot of folks that are about ready to retire. We have a lot of work ahead of us. And so our board has been very generous to us to allow us to have some knowledge transfer positions, bring in some folks, walk alongside some of these folks that are retiring, let that knowledge transfer. And at the same time, it gives us a little bit extra workforce while we're taking on this mountain. Right now, we are projected to triple in size in the next 10 years. So not double, triple. So, and that's just transmission. I don't know what's happening on the generation side over here.
Annalisa, I think that would go directly to you. You have a lot of power to make.
Right. So we are in this great time period of these 10 years that we are looking at all kind of new technologies, all kind of innovation, and at the same time, so all these new folks have this great experience of trying to learn all these new technologies while they have somebody that's sort of overlooking their shoulder. And I kind of think back that I had that same opportunity when I was in my, early in my career to get exposed to a lot of different things, and it just gives you more confidence as you go along. So I'm really excited for a lot of the new folks that we have hired, that they get to be in this time frame and get to learn from experience, but also absorb all this new technology as we kind of climb this mountain, as we say at Georgia Transmission. The next 10 years are extremely exciting for us.
Well, that's a great segue for you.
It is.
They're ready to transfer it. You better be ready to make it.
We're going to need some more power, people.
Yeah.
I know people hear lots of places about the huge increase in demand for power, and of course that power's got to get transmitted, and Barbara and her team do so beautifully. I think there's a lot of questions about what's going to be needed tomorrow and 5 years and 10 years from now in the power industry. Everyone knows more. The big question is how much more, and the power plants that we build are very expensive. And the last thing we want to do is build too much or too little. But as Barbara said, and the way I would frame it is, it's all about the people and the technology, and I'm so excited to see both unfold. We have just recently expanded a really exciting program through the technical college system of Georgia, and we're bringing on a whole new class of interns to get them ready for the generation jobs of the future. Power plants we already have, power plants that we're building, power plants that we haven't yet imagined. But I'm so excited to see a whole new generation of professionals and Georgians build careers in the cooperatives, not just in energy, but in the cooperatives, and to watch the great things that they will do. And I'm really excited to see what technology will come. We are very lucky to be in the state of Georgia, where we as cooperatives believe in an all of the above solution to the demands we have for energy. And that means that we have built new nuclear. We're not afraid to use coal with all of the technologies that have been added to that generation source to make it cleaner than it's ever been before. And at the same time, we get to enjoy a fantastic cooperatively backed solar fleet and natural gas resources. So we'll get to see all of the technology unfold with some of the hardest working people in this country, and that's going to be really exciting.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to start wrapping some stuff up, but before we do, I wanted to ask you if you could give one piece of advice to the next generation of industry leaders, what would that be?
One of my best mentors, he gave me a piece of advice, and I took it, and it was perfect. But somebody being in the finance area, Annalisa has to get all the contracts right. Finance people have to follow the money, and that was a piece of advice. But it doesn't just go for finance people. If you know how the dollars work, if you can follow the money through the rates, you are so much more well-positioned for knowing, is that a good idea or a bad idea? Because you know how it flows through the rates. So know your business, I guess, is another piece of advice. So
I would just add to that, no matter where you're working in whatever industry, I would encourage any professional to be easy to teach. And by that, I mean, look, as we talked about earlier, look for what each person that you're coming into contact can teach you, but ask for the feedback. That's a powerful thing. It can be hard to highlight for people what they need to work on. The power that comes with simply saying, I'd really like to hear what you think I could improve on or what I could do better. Be willing to show up for the extra meeting or to volunteer with someone that could be a mentor to you. Make it easy for them. I think sometimes we wait for that person to reach out and say, oh, let me teach you something or let me help you. But take the time to reverse it and ask someone that you'd like to learn something from how you might be able to help them or to fit in their day. And I have learned many important things that I use each day from literally dozens of mentors. And some mentors will be all over your life for many years. I have one mentor that was one of my first employers that she's still teaching me things 25 years later, one of the first female federal judges in this country. And I have other mentors that stepped in for one really important call. Barbara's one of those people. She's done that for me several times in my career. So be easy for them to teach.
That is some great advice, and we just want to thank you again, Barbara and Annalisa, for sitting down with us today and chatting with us. And thank you for joining us on another episode of In the Loop. Be sure to find us wherever you get your podcast and share this episode with your friends. Leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.